Alright, so what's up you guys, it's your boy Danchou, and for today we are back with Granblue Fantasy, as today I wanted to follow up on one of my previous videos where I showed you guys how to play Granblue Fantasy on your phones and web browsers, and I figured I'd follow it up with a video with some beginner tips I found very useful when I started out the game myself. Now these were tips I found myself discovering as I went on, and I think I could make the lives of beginners a lot easier if I shared them in this video, instead of you guys having to go out your way to find out about them sooner or later yourself. Now just before I do dig into these tips, I just want to say that if you do enjoy Granblue Fantasy or Granblue Fantasy Versus content, then you might as well consider hitting that sub button, as I do cover both games and try to keep you guys updated with everything as fast as possible surrounding these games. Now with all that typical YouTuber talk out the way, let's get into these tips. Now for tip 1, I got quite a crucial one, which would be unlock Dark Fencer class as soon as possible. Classes are very important, as classes give you a certain skill set that you can use whilst doing your mission and raids. So I don't think it's hard to see why you'd want good classes, because the better the classes are, the better the skill set is, making it easier for you to complete your mission and raids. And I remember vividly that when I started out, I spent quite some time just playing what I thought looked cool, and whilst you can definitely still do that, I still highly recommend going for Dark Fencer, as this class will help you like no other in the early stages of the game. Now Dark Fencer is a row 3 class, and in order to unlock Dark Fencer, you'd have to max level 2 different classes before that, which will be Enhancer and Arcana Dueler. Now the reason why this class is a must choose in the early stages is because its skill set will stay relevant all the way up until around rank 100 or so, and the skill Miserable Mist is practically a staple even for the higher level players. All the 3 skills offered within this class will make your life a lot easier for you as a beginner, as these 3 skills are all debuffs you can land on practically any enemy you'll walk into up until the level 100s. Now for its first skill, it has Stall 2, and the skill does 200% elemental damage to your enemy whilst also inflicting delay. The delay effect allows you to push back the enemy's super attack by 1 turn, so if you find yourself in a situation where you aren't really prepared to take a hit yet, or you're really close to finishing off a raid but you can't really take the next super, then this skill can become really valuable for you as you go. And whilst the 200% damage might sound great, in reality it isn't as good as it sounds, as when you unlock this class, your weapon grids won't be the greatest available yet, meaning that even 200% elemental damage won't do too much damage for you. Then we have the second skill, which is by far the most valuable skill and a must have whilst you're climbing your way towards rank 100 or so, which will be Miserable Mist. Miserable Mist inflicts 20% attack and defense down on all enemies, meaning that you can effectively take away 1/4 of your enemy's attack and defense cap just by clicking this skill alone. And let me tell you, once you're at the beginning stages of Granblue, that 25% cut will become really valuable to you, as it's quite a noticeable change in battle. And the skill itself will stay very good for a very long way, as even past the level 100s, Miserable Mist is still used here and there. Later down the line in the game, players rely less on the skill alone, but as a beginner this will be your biggest friend for a long time. Until the game itself changes the cap on how much you can debuff your attack and defense from your opponent, Miserable Mist will always stay relevant, so see it as a real good investment for you in the future. Then we have the last skill, which will be Gravity Wave, and Gravity Wave adds an extra turn to the enemy's super attack counter. So let's say the enemy takes 3 turns and will super by the 4th. By using Gravity Wave you can actually stall them for 1 turn, meaning that they will super at turn 5 instead of 4. And together with this first skill, which will be Stall 2, this means you can put off the enemies for supering by quite a bit. So I think you can see why this is becoming such a valuable class, because this class alone can get you quite some mileage. And once I found out how strong it was myself, I didn't change classes all the way up until I was finally able to unlock other classes from the higher end rows. And just to reflect on the skill Miserable Mist one more time, I wanted to give some tips on how to maximize this skill's usage. As in Granblue, the cap for debuffing the enemy is at 50%, meaning that Miserable Mist on its own is already half worth of that. And adding a skill like Armor Break or Rain of Arrows, you can pretty much hit the cap of debuffs at any time. Armor Break is a skill that you can get by unlocking the Warrior class, and Rain of Arrows is a skill that you can unlock with the Sidewinder class. So if you want to optimize your play right there, unlock those 2, rank them up all the way to level 20 and use those skills whilst you're playing Dark Fencer. Though I still highly recommend working your way towards Dark Fencer first and then spend time unlocking these 2 skills right after to boost the effectiveness of the Dark Fencer class altogether. Now for tip 2 on the list, I want to talk about the main story, as the main story is key to unlocking some very valuable events, and in this case I'm mainly referring to the game mode Arcarum and the side story event What Makes the Sky Blue. Now Arcarum is a solo game mode that is unlocked right away after completing chapter 44 of the main story and by clearing a side quest at chapter 30. Arcarum becomes more important as you go, as it allows players to farm a set of very strong characters and summons called Evokers and Arcarum summons. But as good as this sounds right now for beginners, these are characters and summons you won't be able to go after right away, away, but what makes Arc so valuable to beginners is the amount of XP and the rewards that it gives you. On top of the fact that you can unlock a very solid wind element SSR character, which will be Monica. Monica is still a very strong wind unit and places at a 9 out of 10 on the tier list as the end of 220 as this video is recorded. As a beginner, you can definitely benefit from unlocking her as fast as you can, as she will be able to help you out all the way until you find replacement for her, which might or might not take quite a while. So to put everything in check, Arc can not only give you a great SSR for your wind-based team, but also reward you with high XP and valuable rewards. The XP gets bigger as you unlock the harder versions of the quest, and if you can, I definitely recommend trying to unlock the extreme section of Arc as fast as you can, as this will give you the most XP available. Important thing to note is that there is a fast travel option in this mode as well, and whilst it's very tempting to fast travel, it also minimizes your rewards that you get. And I'm not saying you shouldn't use fast travel at all, however, if you aim to optimize the rewards you get from doing Arc, then definitely spend your tickets clearing the missions manually. And to talk a little bit more about the rewards too, Arc can drop numerous items, and among those items I want to talk about the SSR weapons specifically, as these weapons can come in quite handy as a beginner, and they most likely will be part of your weapon grid as you're starting out. If you're lucky enough, Arc drops Magna weapons, or Omega weapons as you might know them, which are weapons that you will need to set up your early weapon grids until you're gradually expanding to M2 weapons, which stand for Magna 2 or Omega 2, and then eventually you will upgrade from M2 all the way to the next and so forth. Now as a beginner, there's not too much of concern right now, so we are looking for Magna 1 weapons. So now that we know that Arc will drop you SSR weapons that you can use for your weapon grids, a lot of XP that you can get as a beginner on top of all the side treasure that you can get for beating these mobs, it's an understatement to say that Arc is very valuable. And now that we know about Arc and all the stuff that it does for you, I will be talking about what makes the Sky Blue next. And what makes the Sky Blue is, in my opinion and by many others, regarded as the best story event released by Granblue till date, as it features a ton of characters and introduces us to the one and only Belial himself. But outside of Belial and the magnificent story it gives, it's also a very valuable side story to play, as this event will hand you over Lyria, which on her own has quite some uses on different team builds here and there, but it also gives you a Bahamut weapon. So simply put, what makes the Sky Blue will reward you very well for playing the story event series. And to talk a little bit more about the Bahamut weapon, the Bahamut weapons provide a large stat bonus to characters depending on their race, the main character itself, which will be Jita or Grun, the characters that fall under the unknown category, and the primal race characters will benefit from any Bahamut weapon that you might have. So the Bahamut weapon that you will get to choose should be based on which character race you'll use more often. And in general, the dagger is the most practical to pick, as there's an overabundance of recruitable human and Arun characters, but the sword and gun are also viable first picks as well if you use drops and Harfin characters more often. The spear and axe might be viable depending on your roster, but if I didn't name the weapon right here specifically, then it's just not recommended to pick for your first Bahamut weapon. So this weapon by itself will be lasting you practically until forever, and is given to you by this story event as a freebie, as Bahamut weapons on their own are way more complicated to get compared to just playing the side story. And I get that this might be a bit overwhelming, as new players tend to doubt on what to pick from here on out, but if you really want to play it safe, you can choose the dagger, as this will be of use to you naturally for the simple fact that it boosts humans and Aruns, which are really easy categories to get units from. But if you feel like you want to look a little bit deeper into it and look at the roster of characters that you might have available to you and pick from there, then that is more than fine too. Don't be too anxious though, as it might seem like a life or death situation right here at first, but in the end you will be able to get the Bahamut weapons in the traditional way, but that will take quite a bit of time, so make sure to pick the weapon that you are more than sure that you will use right away. So as you complete what makes the Sky Blue part 1, part 2 will unlock as well, which will give you yet again a solid bunch of items to fund start your account with some more goodies that will last you quite a while. For example, you can get a free SSR Sentinel fund as both a unit and summon, and also a free version of a primal summon, which are summons who will become way more valuable down the line, but a good summon to have for beginners regardless. However, I do highly recommend that once you reach the stage of where you can pick a primal summon for yourself, please refer to the wiki to read more into them, as for every person watching this video, the situation is different and need to pick a summon based on their account at that time. And if you still feel like you need help with these choices, then feel free to join my Discord, as I'll be glad to help you guys one-on-one and help you guys out with any questions that you guys might have. Then we are at tip 3 of today's video, which will be utilizing your slime quests. Now slime quests are quests that works wonders for you if you want to level up stuff like classes rather quickly. These slime quests can shoot up row 1 classes all the way from level 1 to max, and will be saving you tons of times by playing these quests, as they allow you to gather XP way faster than by playing the game and leveling them up traditionally. So if you want to work your way towards Dark Fencer fast, then I highly recommend farming the slime quest to get your hands on Dark Fencer in no time. Now the quest itself can vary a little bit, as these have certain enemies that spawn that can give you different values of XP and rewards to you. For example, to talk about the mobs that can spawn, you can run into a King Gold Slime, a King Silver Slime, a Slime Swarm, or 3 random silver or gold slimes. Whilst the King Silver Slime gives you the most XP, which comes in at 10,000 per encounter, the King Gold Slime can give you 5,000 XP but instead give you a total of 10,000 rupees to go with it. Now do note that these enemies do have a very high defense, but don't get scared by it just yet, as these are really easy to kill by plain damage, summon calls, charge attacks, or chambers to effectively deal damage against them. So my recommendation will be to go ahead and pick either a friend Bahamut or Lucifer and just use these calls to finish off the stages at ease. The RP and XP gain can be maximized by comboing things as crew buffs, journey drop buffs, and summon auras with boosted RP and XP events, so if you plan on sitting down and leveling up stuff in one go, then I highly recommend activating your journey drop buffs and going to town from there. Now the final thing that I want to say about the slime quest is that in the weekends it will have boosted spawn rates for the king slimes on Saturday and Sunday, meaning that you can farm the event more efficiently in the weekends if you plan to do so. And here we are at tip 4 of the video, which is about saving. And whilst I know that we are playing a gacha and saving is hard to do because we want to get all our hands on all our favorite waifus and husbandos and all the goodies, it's important to know that in Granblue Fantasy it's even more of significance to save, as GBF has a spark system. Now the spark system is Granblue's version of the pity system, which works in a way that if you were to spend a total of 90,000 crystals on one banner, you can freely pick a character in the pool available at that time and get them guaranteed. So when you do save up a bit, you are guaranteed to get your hands on a character or summon that you plan on getting, no questions asked, which is why saving for sparks is highly recommended in Granblue. Now let's say you really don't want to save and you're 100% planning on spending those crystals one way or another, then I do want to tell you guys that if you are going to summon, then please wait until a gala appears. Now in Granblue there are a total of 2 different galas, which in English are known as Premium Gala and Flash Gala, but by most players they are referred to their Japanese names, which the Premium Gala would turn into the Legend Festival or aka Leg Fest, and the Flash Gala would be known as a Grand Fest. Now the reason you want to save for these galas is because the rates are doubled for SSRs, meaning it's 6% instead of 3, and the characters available in these fests aren't available 24/7, as these are high-end premium characters available within the game. So I don't think it's too illogical to wait for one of these fests to bring your crystals on if you really want to, but otherwise it's still more than recommended to just save up and go for one big summon session, which will be enough for you to guarantee you a character of choice. Then we arrived at tip 5, which will be my last tip for today's video, and I want to talk about side stories for a bit. Side stories can be a really good way of collecting SSR units to add to your team in the beginning, and when you start out and you haven't really summoned yet, or you don't really have enough crystals to summon at all, it can be tough to put an element based team together at the start. So with the SSRs of side stories, you can actually start off getting your teams together without having to spend resources right away. If anything, you're getting more resources instead of spending them. On top of the characters, you can also get yourself some nice SSR weapons with EX skills to put in your grid, and this will be a very viable way to get that done. Generally speaking, you want at least 1 or 2 EX skill weapons in your grid, so by playing side stories you can collect both characters and weapons in one go, meaning your progression will hurry up quite a bit without having to rely on any RNG summons. And in general, the summons that you get from side stories aren't that good, making it less notable than the characters or weapons that you can get instead. Side stories also give you an opportunity to farm other resources like class points and summon tickets, and those summon tickets eventually will add up for you, so if you save them, these will play a very good role into your spark funds down the line, especially with festive periods where we can get a lot of free summons like the roulette period, who allow you to get big discounts on sparks, as the game itself gives you so much free summons that they can nearly cover everything for you already, so definitely stack up those tickets when you can. Now truth to be told, grinding these events past getting your first copy might be a bit tedious, so I'd recommend staying on the lookout for event periods where side story items are half off to get. This makes farming these items way more doable, so definitely do it when the opportunity arises. Now these were my 5 tips that I definitely wanted to share with the newer players, as these tips helped me a lot back then when I was still starting out myself, so hopefully you guys will find this information just as useful as I found it back then. I originally planned to give even more tips for today's video, but I was afraid that the video itself would turn out way too long, meaning that the information would be kinda hard to soak in, so I figured it'd be best to stop here for now. But if you guys do feel like you want even more tips, then I'll gladly make another video with some more tips for beginners, so let me know in the comments down below if that is of any interest. Now just before I go, I wanted to put up a reminder that if you guys need help from me directly, or just feel like joining a place where you can meet more GBF beginners to talk about the game and have fun with other beginners, then I do recommend joining my Discord, which I'll provide the link down below. So that was it for today guys, it was your boy Danchou. Stay healthy, stay blessed, and I'm out. Peace.